Hello everyone. Welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. It is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023. I am coming to you from just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, and I hope that you are all doing extremely well. I hope that this finds you well, and I hope that it's not too smoky wherever you are in this world. Unfortunately, we have had unbelievable wildfires this summer here in British Columbia. I know other parts of the world have as well. Yeah, it's been really hard on people. So if you are affected by them, I am so sorry, and I hope that you are finding some solace wherever you've been able to evacuate to. I hope that you guys are carving out some time for your making and for creating. I actually have been able to get some time to do a few things, so I'm excited to share that with you today. I think this is episode 273. I think the last time I said it was episode 273, but it's this episode, and that was 272. So welcome to almost 300. We're getting there, slowly. I don't think we will make 300 before the end of the year, but we will within the next probably 6 to 8 months. We are heading to our family for a week. We leave next week and we'll be gone into the first week of September. So the next live will be Tuesday, September 6th. I'm almost positive. Tuesday, September 5th. The next podcast, the next live stream, and it will be a premiere. So when it's a premiere episode, that means that everybody is invited. It's a public stream. You don't have to be a patron to enjoy the premiere and to enjoy the live chat. So at Tuesday, September 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is also the first day of school here in British Columbia and in Ontario. I think it's the first day of school in Ontario. I know that's the day my brother and sister-in-law are back to school and have kids in their classes. Anyhow, regardless, many people in Canada head back to school on that Tuesday after Labor Day, because our Labor Day long weekend is the first weekend in September. So for many, they will be busy that Tuesday, but for everybody else, we'll have a premiere episode. So that was probably a bit confusing and a bit wordy, but I hope you're with me, that you're following along. We have a lot to cover in today's show, so much. So we're going to jump right into it, but I want to say welcome to those who are here already. It's so good to see you. Diana is here and Rebecca. We've got Kath and Dagmar, Ashley, Glenda, Ellen, Elizabeth. It's so good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here. A Certain Style is here, and Honey and Fiber is here. Fulham Honey and Fiber, sorry. I think that's Carly. Anyways, it's so good to see you guys. So, and Alberto is here. It's just the whole crew. It's so good to see you guys. All right. My School of Sweet Georgia course has been released, the most recent one. This is on goats and rare fibers for the luxury course. It is available on the School of Sweet Georgia. The links will be in the show notes later. I didn't realize that it would be, the course was going to be coming out this week. I was out by a week or so. So I will update the show notes after this is over, and that will all be available down below. I also have a couple of kits that I will be able to give away as part of the launch of the course. So one is rare and one is goats. And I need the Hive Mind chat. I need you guys to let me know. It is Carly, I was right. I need you guys to to give me some prompts, some ideas for questions that I can ask for our giveaway. What's something that everybody kind of wants to know about each other in terms of their spinning? I want to know. So give me some prompts, some questions, and I'll make up a Google form, and that will be available when the live stream goes public. So it won't be available right now during the live stream because I can't do that while I'm streaming, but I will have it all up and ready to go when the show goes public later. Good to see you, Becca. It's good to see you, Amara. So that is the big announcement aujourd'hui. And I will mail those out to the winner. We'll probably run that through September because we have the Attune Shawl spin along, knit along coming. It's going to be coming to an end sort of mid-September. We'll be doing prizes for that at the end of September. And then we'll run this giveaway through September, and we'll do prizes sort of the beginning of October. So Yeah, give me some questions. What does luxury spinning mean to you? I love that. Okay, you guys always have the best questions, and it's so much fun to then be able to read them on the show. We have a little bit more housekeeping. I just want to go through what's coming up in the show, and then we'll run the credits, like coming up in the community, and then we'll run the credits afterward, and we'll get into the bulk of the show. So the Wool Circle has been very busy this summer. This is hosted by Rebecca. It is one of the live streams that you get when you join our Patreon. You can have a free trial for a week, see if you like the Wool Circle and if you like all the things that are offered. I am working on a video that will help you to navigate where all of the content is, to find everything. I'm hoping that that'll be out before the end of the month for patrons of the show, so that when you join, it'll have everything of like how to access all the things, where to go to find the indices, to get through all of the teaching content. There is 5 years worth of teaching content now when you join Patreon. Anything you're wondering about, anything that you're thinking about, it has probably been covered at some point in the teaching content that we do for woolen spinning. So Rebecca's been doing a Diapalooza this year. It was based on the resources that are available at the School of Sweet Georgia. And what was so cool about it was that she's just been sharing her process. So this is sort of what she's been doing and how she's been doing it, not this is how you do things. And it's been just awesome to follow along. We have another live stream coming up on Monday. It's the last one for the summer. It's episode 100 of the Wool Circle. I had done over 70 Wool Circles before Rebecca took over, which is really incredible. So we're celebrating episode 100 on Monday, which is really, really exciting. I love Rebecca's wording for it. She's like, this is not a how-to, her dyeing all the summer. This was a how I did. And I think that's really important to just highlight. So that is the Wool Circle. And then for our year of color study that we're doing as part of our community, we're talking all about color and all of the different things related to color theory, just having a deeper understanding of color theory. So simultaneous contrast, we've been working through the color contrasts all year. We're almost done. We'll be wrapping them up in October. It's been really fun to do the sampling and all of the spinning for the color contrast. This is upcoming for proportion for October, which has been really cool to do. So simultaneous contrast is out now. The vlog and the PDF are available, and we've got a whole bunch of groups meeting as well. So if you're part of the Slack channel as part of Woolen Spinning, Fiber Prep group is meeting on Friday, September 1st. Weaving group is meeting this Friday, which is also my wedding anniversary, Friday, August 25th. Mike and I will be celebrating 16 years of marriage, 17 years of being together. And virtual spin groups always meet on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific. And Spinning Staples is part of our paid membership. It's one of the groups that's paid for, and they are meeting on Wednesday. If you have any questions about any of that, do not ever hesitate to send me a message. You can send it to me on Patreon. You can send it to me on Slack. You can send it to me through Ravelry. You can send me an email, rachel@wellforpearls.com. Yeah, the only place that's a bit tricky is Instagram. I don't check Instagram very much. So if you DM me on Instagram, it'll take a while for me to respond. So there's just that caveat. I've already mentioned about the Attune Shawl spin along that we've been working on. This was a spin along, knit along with Andrea Mowry. People have been sharing like crazy. It's been so much fun. I have lots to share with you in community participation. We're using the hashtag #SpinToKnitAttune on all of the social media places. You can tag your project on Ravelry as well. These are finishing up September 15th, and I started the FO thread, the finished objects thread, in Ravelry for you guys to share all of your finished shawls. I know not everybody has done it out of handspun. I suspect people in our community have done handspun, but maybe not all of you, but most of you. Anyways, make sure you throw your photo in that FO thread when you're done your shawl, because we will be doing prizes. Andrea has provided 3 patterns, and I've got some stuff, and there's a couple of other people that have provided some things, so definitely make sure that you get your stuff in. That thread, the FO thread, is chatter free, so please do not compliment everybody on their shawls, go over to the other thread that's the Attune Shawls Spin Along thread. That's the chatter thread, and you can chat there. All right. I think that's it for all of the housekeeping. So I'll see you guys on the other side. A thank you to our sponsor, Brother Drum Carder. They are dedicated to giving you the very best of carding products with a focus on quality, affordability, and customer satisfaction. They are building mill processing equipment, so please stay tuned. Be sure to check out the new products on their website and follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Brother Drum Carder. All right, so we had a really cool Ask Anything that I wanted to share with you guys. And let's just scroll down. And these are the photos from Dominique. So Ask Anything is a thread on Ravelry where people literally can ask anything. So you can ask it about, you know, your knitting, your spinning. You can ask questions of me. You can ask about anything. Generally, obviously, they're spinning related. But Dominique had this really great photo and this question, and what really heartened me was how many people responded and chatted with her, and a lot of this chatter was actually on the Slack channel. But I wanted to share this with you because some of these long wools are really difficult to work with. They're really crimp, they're really curly. Their crimp isn't like, you know, what we're used to in like merino or targi, or I'm working on a Dorset right now where the crimp is like this. With these fleeces, the crimp is long and it's curling, and the locks are long. They look like doll's hair. They are often used for doll's hair. Many people tail spin these. They lock spin them. There's all different things that they do with them. And you know, you can get really, really beautiful yarn out of this stuff. So I wanted to share this with you because while these aren't, the response on Ravelry was just phenomenal. So this is from Dominique. Hi. I have long locks of Lister long wool, 25 centimeters unstretched. It's not easy to comb, not mentioning to spin. I'm considering cutting the locks in half. Is it something that you do? So before we go on, I wanted to mention, if you've ever listened to Deb Robeson talk, or if you've read her book, The Fleece and Fiber Source Book, I do not expect that you've read that from cover to cover. I just mean that you've read bits and pieces of it as you've gone on in your spinning journey. If you've ever seen her in a podcast interview, there was a great interview with her on Long Thread Media on their podcast. And yeah, if you ever like hear her talk, she often will mention that it is not a criminal offense to cut your locks, and that if it's not working for you, to cut them and see where you go from there. One of the things that she talks about a lot is the tips of locks. So if you look at the Lister long wool there, you see the tip is like a brown color. It's almost actually the color of my hair. That when people say that they're allergic to wool or that wool is scratchy, it's often because the tips of the wool over time have worked their way free from the spinning, and that's what's like tickling you and scratching you. It's the tips. So Deb will talk about in her interviews and in her courses and whatnot that are available online, she'll say, cut them. Cut those tips off. Just take that little bit off the top. And so the other thing is that the shearer cut the lock. And so it's totally okay to cut your stuff and make it work for you. But these were some of the responses that Dominique got from asking this question, and I thought it was just so helpful because there's some great things that to think about. And so somebody said, do whatever turns the wool into something that you like and that it helps with the outcome that you're after. So that's what we just talked about. Like Deb always says, make it work for you. There is no spinning police. It's fine to cut in half, but have you tried opening up both ends by pulling them over the end of a hand carder first before combing? So you can use a hand carder to do this. You can use a lock pop to do this. You can also use a flicker where you take the lock and you literally open up each end. So with a flicker, you have the lock in your hand, you've got the middle of the lock secured, and you tap it until the lock opens up, and then you turn it around and you do the opposite at the other end. And it opens up the lock and it makes it easier to work with. You can do that with a flicker. You can do it with a lock pop, which I've showed video on the podcast in the past of doing that. If you look for the titles that have Kainnu Harmaas in it, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the timestamps. They're in the show notes, in the down bar on YouTube. You're looking for the ones that are about Kainnu Harmaas, the Finnish Kainnu Harmaas. I show what the lock popping looks like. You can also do it on a hand card, and again, you're just tapping it until you open up the lock, and then you turn it around, you tap it, and open it up. And yeah, it's just they're easier to work with. Somebody suggested using some water sprayed to reduce the static. The other thing that you can do is take some oil, lavender oil, olive oil, anything that's a light oil, and you can mix that with the water. Generally you do 50-50 mix, and there are ratios of the amount of wool to the amount of oil and water to add that people like Peter Thiel have written about in the past. So you can spray that on with a very fine sprayer. And then the other thing that somebody mentioned was possibly rewashing it. Since it's a bit sticky, it's definitely worthwhile to rewash and then to reassess. And so that's actually what Dominique did. So Dominique said hang on, nope, that's not what I'm trying to do. There's this one. So what she actually did was she said rewashing was a good idea. It's not sticking anymore. The fibers are still hard to comb due to their length. I have some breakage. I did cut the locks in half, flicked them, and put them on the hackle. So that's this photo here. Some are still close to 20 centimeters stretched, but they're much easier. There's less waste. So my conclusion is that in this case of a very long staple length, cutting the locks was a good idea. So, goes to show you, keep sampling, keep trying, because you never know what you're going to end up with. So thank you, Dominique, for sharing that. And then I wanted to share this from Christina because she chimed in with the conversation, and I wanted to share these with you because long wools often get a bit of a bad rep. So past about like BFL, blue face lister, people are like, oh no, I don't want to work with long wool. Like it gets too carpety. It's really coarse. The micron count goes way up. They're really hard to work with, but there are some amazing fleeces out there. So do not discredit it, because these are from Christina, and she shared this as part of the response to Dominique and this whole conversation that was going on. She says 100% Lister long wool. I wear these every day for my walk when I give them an occasional cold water soak, and they look like new. Aren't these incredible? Christina spun these and knit them. So beautiful. Thanks you guys for such an awesome conversation. I love it when you guys do stuff like that and you go on these big journeys together, and sort of there's this hive mind of collective learning. So that's just fantastic. And Dominique's here today, so that's awesome. I love that I was able to share that when she was able to jump in. Yeah, Diana says, I love that sentiment. Do what works for you so you can make yarn. Exactly. Just make the yarn. Make it work. If cutting, would you do a straight across the lock or at an angle? Good question, Christine. I think it really depends on what you're going for. I personally would try to keep everything about uniform, so I would probably cut straight across, sort of like they would for, a blunt cut kind of thing. Yeah, if you... the other thing you could do is feather it. So you could use feathered scissors if you're sort of looking for, if you're going to card the fibers and you want sort of some various lengths, but not too much difference. But yeah, I would use extremely sharp scissors, and I would cut straight across. This is a bit random, but scissors for dogs' hair, like for trimming their feet and stuff, those are really, really sharp generally. They work really well. So do little gardening shears, the little mini ones that you can get. They're really, really, really sharp. And they tend to be a little bit stiff, and they work really well. That's actually what I use to cut my bangs. Except that my hairdresser, Rachel, hates that I cut my own bangs. She's always like, I'll do it for you. But I'm going to see her tomorrow night, so I haven't cut them because I know that she'll want to fix them up for me. I'm sure I'm every hairdresser's nightmare because I just do my own thing. I don't care. I'm so bad. I can't dye my hair because of the color, and I don't perm it or like do anything with it. I like the only control I have over my hair is cutting it myself once in a while. All right, let's move on. I have a little bit of spindling. I won't run the whole like intro like thing for spindling, but because this is just so brief. But I did finish the first 2 ounces of my spindle spun fat cat knits fiber, and I got it wound off of the spindles. I'm really torn about bringing my spindles to Ontario. We spend a lot of time at my in-laws outside, just on the farm. They've got 31 acres, and it's all treed. They have a tree farm. And we spend a lot of time just outside kind of wandering around, but I don't really want to take up the space to bring my spindles to possibly maybe spin throughout the week. So I'm really torn about what to do, but I did empty all of my Bosworth spindles so that would be an option if I wanted to take them. I'm gonna see how much we like what we have space for. We only take carry-ons when we go because we only go for a week, and we can do laundry. So I'll see. I'm really torn, but I am finished the first 2 ounces. Where's the camera? And I wound it all off. So this is the first of 3 bobbins that will be the result of this spin once it's done. So it's just a random traditional 3-ply, stripped the fiber and right till the end, until I could strip it no more, and pre-drafted each one as I spindle spun them. There was lots of video a couple of episodes ago that I'll try and link all this stuff in the show notes for you guys when you're watching this later, if you want to go back to some of the previous episodes. And it's all time stamped because Rebecca does that for me now, so thank you so much, Rebecca. And you guys can see the video that I have of how I spin on the spindles. And this is my Bosworth spin. I've been using my Bosworth spindles because some of my other spindles are a little bit too heavy, and because this is spinning up so fine, they were just breaking. They're constantly breaking. So I just yeah, I'm really happy with how this has come up so far. So that's my fat cat knits, the first 2 ounces. So not too bad. All right. I have kind of a fun thing to share with you guys. And so yeah, while I'm setting everything up, I will just run the credits. Okay, so I finished my Kainnu Harmaas. I finished all of it. It is skeined, it is washed, it is photographed, it is all the things. So I prepared a little video for you guys because it was so much to try to cover, and I really wanted to celebrate these little sheepies before we moved on to other things. So this is a compilation. I'm talking through the whole thing, so I'm going to mute myself. And you guys can watch what I prepared for you guys, because I wanted to kind of celebrate these little sheep before we move on, and before this gets sort of stashed in my stash and kind of not forgotten about, but just sort of put aside for a little while, because I'm not sure what I'm going to make with this yarn. So yeah, without further ado.
So I actually decided to pre-record this part of the podcast because this spin has been on the wheels and being like in the fiber prep stage for quite a long time. And I didn't want to mince my words and I didn't want to miss my words. But now that I'm actually recording, I wanted to see when I actually had started this spin, because the shearing of this Kainnu Harmaas was back in 2016. It was a fall shearing, and it was gifted to me by Amber, who lives in Finland. And I didn't start working on it until November of 2020, but I actually really started working on it and really making a conscious effort to really get this done in January of this year. So I've actually been steadily working on it since January, and I just finished it over the last week or so between podcast episodes. So I will calculate my yardage and I will figure out what my final weight of fiber was that I actually have in yarn. But I spun all of the singles on my Lendrum DT, my double treadle, at 17 to 1. And then I plied on my Mastercraft Susie because I have my high speed head on there. And so I plied it at 27 to 1, mostly just for time and efficiency because I could get a lot of twist into it quickly. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about with this spin was what these sheep are, like who they are, what are they, where do they come from. I talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but I did put a call out a couple of episodes ago and said, like, if anybody knows anything about these sheep, I am having a really hard time finding anything about them. And of course, you guys stepped up. So I heard from a couple of people and I was able to get some more information. So Kainnu Harma translates from Finnish to English as gray. So these are Kainuu gray sheep. And once I was Googling Kainuu gray, lots of stuff came up. It was just a matter of using the English term for gray versus the Finnish term for gray, the Finnish word, I should say. So these are a Northern European short-tailed breed. They're part of the Northern European short-tailed breed group. They are native to Finland. They are very well adapted to their local environment. They're a gray landrace breed. They were revitalized starting in the 1980s, and they actually were recognized as a distinct breed after DNA studies were performed around the year 2000. Their wool is mostly medium gray, and the breed standard does allow for white or black and all shades of gray and brown in between. And when you look at photos of the sheep, there is all colors. They're really cute sheep, actually, and their skin underneath their fleece actually has a violet tint or a purple tint, which is kind of neat. Because there are now more than 1,000 ewes, they are no longer classed as endangered. And they are very close relatives of the Finn sheep and the northwestern Russian breeds. So they're sort of part of that Northern European breed group, like I mentioned. So the main goal that the farmers have in raising these sheep is now just the preservation of the breed itself. That's the main goal of raising these sheep and of having these sheep and of keeping these sheep. And I heard from one of our community members about sort of just wool in Finland in general. And I think that it very closely mimics what's going on in many other parts of the industrialized world. So, that wool has been mostly treated as a byproduct and is seen as a byproduct of the lamb industry. They're not valued for their fleece, and that is slowly changing, which is wonderful. I was actually listening to the radio the other day, and somebody made just a passing comment about the importance of wool in sustainability for clothing and textiles in the world going forward. And it was just a passing comment. He almost said it flippantly, and I thought, oh man, things are changing. Slowly, but they are changing. Views are changing. As we know, this is another problem that exists in other areas. Shepherds and shepherdesses are not compensated for the fleece, so often it's not even worth trying to shear with wool in mind. And again, this is very, very slowly changing. And the person that wrote me also mentioned that because of all of these factors, you can actually purchase fleece and very nice fleece and quite good quality fleece really cheap. Like €5 a pound. So that's definitely, or maybe she said €5 a kilo. Anyways, it's definitely something to keep in mind. I loved spinning this. I had a really good time spinning it. I am glad that I spent the time initially to lock pop each of the locks, even though they weren't particularly long and it was a little bit laborsome to try to get those locks opened. I'm glad that I did because once it went onto the drum carder, it was so lovely. There was one skein in this batch of skeins that I didn't do that with, that was still part of the sampling process where I just put it through the drum carder several times. And there is definitely a slightly inferior quality to the yarn that I can't quite put my finger on, but it's just not quite as lovely as the rest of the yarn. You can also see from the photos, this one shows it and a couple other ones show it really well. There is a lot of color variation between the different skeins. So some of them came up a little bit whiter and some of them came up a little bit grayer. And it seems to have depended on where in the shearing I was when I was processing the fleece and the bats that I was pulling off of my drum carder and then spinning the yarn and then the bobbins that got plied together. There are definitely some variations in terms of slightly whiter, creamier skeins versus slightly grayer or browner skeins. I'm really torn about dyeing this. I'm on the fence. I'm not sure that I will. It's got some lovely variation in the yarn itself, which with a gentle wash, something to just give the yarn some color, wouldn't hide completely. But I am thinking about possibly leaving this in its natural shades and weaving a stole, something with a really simple pattern that would showcase the yarn more so than a really overt pattern. But I'm going to put this aside for a little bit while I decide and let it mull over in my brain because I really love this yarn. It's very soft, it's strong, it's a 2-ply. And like I said, I'll get yardage and grist over the next couple of weeks, and I will share that with you as soon as I do. So thank you for listening.
Thanks so much, you guys, for listening to that. I hadn't turned the camera back on over here. I know it's a bit long, but it actually saves my voice a little bit if I do some of those pre-recorded segments a little bit. And so I've been thinking about ways of like how I could do that to be able to share with you guys what I'm working on and what's happening and what I'm doing without losing my voice halfway through the show. The other thing that is finished and skeined and ready to go is am I still muted? Is it still not working? Can you guys still not hear me? Let me know. Can you guys hear me? Because over here it's showing that I can. Okay, good. No, you're good now. Sorry. Perfect. Thank you, Rebecca. So the other thing that is finished and skeined, I was really on Ply Island the last couple of weeks. I really was like, doing all the things plying, and I was plying on my Ashford e-spinner. I love that for plying. It's quick in the sense that I can drag it around with me and I can ply and keep going while I'm waiting like for the kettle to boil or while the kids are doing something. I can just keep on going. So I got all of my combo spin spun and plied. I am so proud of myself. I am just, so I don't have any photos of the 3 yarns together because I skeined this yarn so that I could get accurate grist, I could get some yardage, and I could start weighing and measuring all of the things. So this is 3 braids. For those who are new here and don't kind of know about this spin, let me just show you a photo. Oh no, I took it away. It's gone. There are copious photos in previous shows. If you want to see the original colorways and you want to see all of that stuff, please just go back to the previous episodes because I shared video of how I spun it, how I prepped it, how I put this all together. Like we have talked about this spin ad nauseum. So please head back and have a listen. But 3 braids of fiber, the total weight was 322 grams. So when all was said and done, I had 322 grams. Guess how much yardage I had. This is a 3-ply. This is an up close of the beautiful, wonderful swatch. I love this swatch. This is on 3.5 millimeter needles. What did I do? Yes, 3.5 millimeter needles or US, what is that? US size what? US size, is that US size 5 or size 4? Somebody will help me out. Close, Rebecca. She said 1,500 yards. You were so close. So yes, I got 1,624 yards out of this fiber, which is 1,485 meters. So that's a grist of 2,200 yards per pound or 4,600 meters per kilo. So tons and tons. It is soft. The silk gives it a little bit of a sheen because this was Polworth silk. Yeah, I am just over the moon happy with it. I also have a ton of yardage. So that's the finished yarn there. As you can see, 3-ply. Nice and round. What gives it away that it's a multiply and not a 2-ply? Because I said, oh, as you can see, and some of you are probably like, how would you know that? What gives it away is the roundness of the yarn. The yarn is very round. It doesn't look oval. It doesn't look flat. It doesn't look like the singles are sitting next to each other. They're nicely plied around each other. So this could be a 4-ply, but so if you didn't know if it would, like if it was a 3-ply, a 4-ply, a 5-ply, you'd have to like start to take it apart and untwist it. But what gives it away that it's a multiply yarn, that it's not a 2-ply, is that it's so round. And I thought the colors came through beautifully. As you can see from a distance, it's sort of got an overall gray, kind of muddy green hue to it, sort of a khaki almost color. And in the swatch, there's no overt striping. And from a distance, like if you're looking at it from a distance, this is small, and so now the camera is small and I'm small, and you can just see it in the corner here. But the thing is, oh, it's behind the stamp though. Let me move myself. Let me just move myself over, and then I won't be behind the stamp. Sorry, guys. You can see that from a distance, it reads as forest green. It reads as like a dark foresty kind of khaki-ish green. And so you can see that like from a distance, this will just look like a semi-solid. And then it's up, when it comes up close, that you can see the nuance, and that you can see, you know, that it has, yeah, nuance and texture and interest and heathering. So I kind of pivoted a little bit. After I did this swatch, this was supposed to be for my Attune shawl, but this is such a fantastic piece of fabric. It is just awesome. This probably could even go down to a 3.25 and still be a really fantastic piece of fabric, to be honest. I started looking at patterns that have been in my queue and have been in my favorites for a really super long time, because the Attune shawl, while huge, it uses 2 colors. It's not going to use 1,600 yards of yarn. And if I have a whole bunch left over after knitting up a sweater, I could still do the Attune shawl. It's just that, you know, I'd really like to maximize all of this work in something a little bit more substantial than just a shawl. And I had some other yarn in my stash that I pulled out that I'll talk to you about next time, because I have started my Attune shawl, but I saved it for next time. So I cast on for the Weekender Light. So if you guys haven't seen this pullover, where have you been? It's by Andrea Mowry. It's another Andrea Mowry pattern, but it has been in my stash for a really super long time. Or in my queue for a really super long time, and I just thought, you know, I'm just gonna follow my gut on this one, and I just started this, so this is only like a day or 2 of knitting, and I had to put it down because I was working on some other stuff. But this is just the beginning of the back, the ribbing that you work on. The way that the sweater is knit is you start with the back ribbing for the back half of the sweater, and then you do the same thing. You cast on the same stitches, you do the ribbing for the front so that you have a split hem, and then you join and work in the round for the body of the sweater. There are so many people in our community who have made this sweater, and I really, really like it. It's been in the back of my mind for a really super long time. The last 3 sweaters that I have knit have done a tubular cast on, tubular bind off on all of the hems and the cuffs and everything. I am tubular bind off and tubular cast on out. I just couldn't face doing it again. It's not that I don't like it. It's not that. It's so fiddly. It's fine. I have to be in the right mood, and I just couldn't face it. So I did do just a long tail cast on. Whether or not that was the right thing to do, I have no idea, but I did do a long tail cast on. So not my favorite when I've got 1x1 rib going right after it. It's not my favorite, but I couldn't face another garment of tubular cast on. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So that is finished. It is a huge amount of spinning. It's a huge amount of yarn. I showed you the one skein. This is the other skein. It's very dark. The cameras aren't brightening it up particularly because it is so dark. Like, this is dark. It looks dark. It reads is dark, it's dark. And I'm just so unbelievably happy with that. So thank you for listening to me wax poetic about that spin for so long. I have to say, it was a fast spin. Like, I normally don't get spins done that quickly, but I started it in mid-June and I finished it in mid-August. That is some kind of record for me to spin that much, at least recently. I used to be able to bang that out no problem, but not recently, not in the last couple of years, since we brought the kids home and started doing the hybrid schooling, the mishmash of traditional school with homeschooling. I haven't been able to do a spin that quickly in a while. Rebecca did the same thing. She did a massive spin for the Attune shawl, the Attune spin along, and she decided it had to be a sweater instead. I love how muted the purples and the teals are, how it's so dark overall. Me too, I love it. It's going to be, oh, I'm so excited about this sweater. I'm going to wear it all the time. It's funny, there's a couple of things that I've made recently that I feel like I wear all the time, and I could see this being a regular one. Ellen says I have enough gray fiber left that I'm thinking of spinning for a sweater. That's fantastic. There's always so many people that are spinning for sweaters in this community, and it's so great. Christine, 3.5 millimeter, UK size 7 and a US size 4. Thank you, Christine. I thought it was a US size 4. Yeah. Yeah, Eve says my kind of yarn, tonal but interesting. Exactly. It's got those very, very gentle hits of the magenta from the original Tea Party braid from Sweet Georgia. And then of course there's that dark, dark, dark teal in there from the Woodland braid. But overall, that grouse that was that limey green just takes over the whole thing. It's just perfect. Have you looked at the Italian cast on? I haven't, Christine. I will look it up. It gives a similar look. The Brooklyn tweed patterns I've looked at in the last couple of years have used a ribbed cast on. Oh, that's great, Christine. I'll look that up. Rebecca likes my cast on. Thank you so much. Yes, the cast-ons have definitely been a little bit, like, I like doing the different cast-ons. I used to use the same cast-on for everything, and I never varied ever. It was long-tail cast-on for absolutely everything. And then I kind of had a coming to the light moment where I was like, I need to branch out a little bit and just try some of these other cast-ons, and I'm really glad that I did. But I also find sometimes that particularly the tubular cast-on is sometimes just a little bit fiddly, and if I'm not in the mood, it's a little bit challenging. All right, let's go on to some spinning. Okay, this has been really fun. I finished the Kainuu, as you guys know, because we just watched a whole video about it. And one of the things that I really wanted to do in this year of like sort of post, getting that done, getting it off the wheels, getting it finished. I'm still really committed to stashing down. I'm still really committed to really, honing down my stash, getting through a lot of the bigger spins that I've had sitting in the back of my mind for a while. I have about 4 or 5 fleeces in my stash, and one of them is this Dorset fleece. And I used this fleece, or part of, like a little bit of this fleece, for my Spinning Sheep Breeds workshop that's available on the School of Sweet Georgia. It was part of the Downs part of that workshop if you're curious and you have membership, and you can go and check that out. And I carded it, and at that time I didn't have a lock pop. I had a hackle, but I wasn't super comfortable using it just yet. And I was sort of, working through like what to do with these fleeces. How do you start working with them? Bringing you guys along on my journey with me. And I pulled this out the other day, and I pulled this fleece out, and it's a quarter of a fleece. My friend Diana, who's in the chat right now, she has part of it. My friend Kelsey has part of it, and her mom has part of it. And I pulled it out, and you'll see the photos in just a second of the fleece itself. But there it is over on that side, and it's these beautiful long locks that are about 7 inches. And I've already done some carded samples of this because I did them for the School of Sweet Georgia. And I pulled it out, and this has been in the back of my mind since that workshop, like since I filmed all of that stuff for that workshop, for that content. And it's just been bugging me. Like, it's just been bugging me because I really want to do this fleece. And so I promised myself that after Kainuu was done, that this would go on the wheels next. And I will work on this sort of for the remainder of the year. So what I did was I took each of the locks, and I've just been pulling them out of the bag, and anything that's really jumbled and not really in lock format anymore, I've been setting it aside in another bag for carding. But all of the ones that are still like the formed locks, which is like 80 to 90% of the fleece, I have been lock popping. So I open them up, which is the next photo, lock pop them. So they start on the far right there, and then in the middle is the lock popped locks. And I've been keeping them aligned so I know which end is the tip and which end is the butt. And then I put them on my hackle, and I sprayed them with one of my very, very fine sprayers. I did a 50-50. I did 3 mils of jasmine oil and 3 mils of water, and I spritzed that across, and I was able to do, I had enough lock popped that I was able to do 2 sort of batches, if you will, on the hackle. And so these are the 2 little nests of fiber that I was able to pull off and diz off. And I used the very small hole. So if I go back once, if I go back to this photo, on the dark side of my diz is the hole that I used, was the smaller hole, not hose. And this is the yarn. And the yarn, I just, be still my beating heart. This yarn, I'll just pause on this photo here for a moment. So I spun it as a 3-ply. I spun it on my Lendrum DT because I wanted that 18:1 ratio. I didn't want it to be too fast. My Magikrafт wheels, I tend to run higher ratios on them, and I wanted to preserve all of that air that you can get in down fibers. You can get all of this from the 3-dimensional crimp. When you look at them under a microscope, they kind of have this 3-dimensional crimp to them, and they break the mold, the down fibers. They break the mold from like the smooth crimp that we're used to in the long wools, the kind of curling crimp, and then that really tight crimpy crimp that from the fine wools. The down wools kind of break that. They're sort of a mishmash of all of them. And of course, it's one of the reasons why they're very inconsistent with their felting. So I spun all of the singles. I spun it to 1 bobbin, and I thought as I was spinning it, I was like, there's way too much twist in this. It's going to be terrible. It's too much twist. I don't think that I'm reading the fiber right. I think I'm putting in too much twist. I was really second guessing myself the whole time that I was spinning. And I thought, you know, I really want a 3-ply. This is going to be for a sweater. You know, I definitely want that roundness in the fiber. And what I ended up doing was I chain plied it, because it's just a sample. It's just this little bitty sample, and it gives me a really good idea of what I want for a sweater. Like, is this what I'm going for? Do I want to spin up more of this way, or do I want to try some different sampling? You know, do I want to take the lock popped fibers and I could card them up and create some bats and then comb them? That's really common, you know, to get that, just get all the fibers, you know, jumbled up together, get them all organized into a bat, and then lash that onto the combs and comb that off. The one thing I will say is I didn't plank. I just didn't take the time to plank. So that's when you hackle and you comb everything and you've got it all ready to go. I think I have a photo of that. So you've got it all ready to go here, and you've combed it all. This isn't quite combed yet. It's not quite ready, but just pretend this is combed and it's all fluffy and white and it looks amazing. And what you do is that first time that you diz off and you take the fiber off to create these little nests of fiber, you take these and you lay them in your hand and you break them apart so that they're ready to go back on the hackle. You put them back on the hackle and then you diz off one more time. And the idea is to get all of the lengths of fiber mixed up so that you're not just pulling the long stuff off first and then the medium stuff and then the short stuff, so that by the time you get to the end of your nest of fiber, you're only spinning short stuff and you've started off with all your long stuff. All of this is covered in Peter Thiel's work. Kim McKenna did a great job on the School of Sweet Georgia of covering it in her course as well. And there's other resources out there like on Long Thread Media, lots of different places that you can look for this information. We'll talk about it more in the coming months as I work through this fleece. I didn't take the time to plank. It was in the evening. Everybody wanted to watch a movie. I wanted to get to the spinning. It was going to prolong the whole process, and I just wanted the sample, to be honest with you, at that point. Because I could plank later. I was like, you know, I can do that part later. In the meantime, I just want to get the sample and see if I'm even on the right track. Like, am I even going in the right direction? So this ended up being, Rebecca said it's a 3-ply. She's wondering, she said, wow, I can't tell. Maybe the up close photo, it's a little bit more, the finished photo, why don't we go to the big camera and I will show you up close on the big camera. That is the finished sample. I am so in love with this, you guys. You have no idea. All I want to do is like, and it's quite soft. I'm surprised how soft it is. It's not coarse. It's no coarser than my Cheviot that I spun for my Gentle Morning years ago. I will absolutely be able to wear this next to my skin. So yeah, that's it there. I'll take it out of its skein and then you guys can see. Just give it a bit of a, get some air back into it because it's been skeined for the last week or so, about a week, I guess. There's it up close. And you can see like areas, like when you chain ply, there's always areas where those, like there's the knots of the chain ply. So you can see that, but this is just a sample. It's just, I'm just getting started. Like I don't mind that it's got those little knots because it gives me an idea of how the yarn will act. And as I spin more and as I do more with it, I'll be able to, you know, I won't chain ply. I'll just fill up bobbin after bobbin after bobbin. And when I have 3 bobbins, I'll ply and then I'll do some more. And then when I have 3 bobbins, I'll ply and, and so on and so forth. So, I'm really happy with how this came out and I am very, very excited to work on this some more over the course of September once we're back from Ontario. It does have a lot of sheen. Thank you so much, Diana. She says lovely spinning. It does have a lot of sheen and I think part of it might be, I have washed this, I have finished it. Sorry, I'm shaking the camera. I have washed this and finished it. It's nicely, it poofed up in the washing just incredibly. It might be a little bit of the spinning oil still left, like a little bit of the lavender oil. It actually smells like lavender. It smells really good. But I did wash it and I did finish it and everything, but I maybe would have to scour it to get that all out. I also think it's just the nature of the combing process. Like it's just so, you know, I combed it so that I would be able to spin it from the butt end. So smoothing the whole way, true worsted, and then I chain plied. So yeah, really happy with how this came out. Really happy. You plied it so gently and it's so poofy. I think that's why it didn't look 3-ply-ish. Yeah, probably actually, Rebecca. It's got a lot of air in it. I thought that I had overspun the singles, so I was very careful with the chain ply not to overply. The twist angle, I did check it after I finished it and after it was washed and dried. The twist angle is about 40 degrees. And actually the wraps per inch, I could tell you, I think it's 22, but I don't know if I'm remembering that right. My combo spin from Sweet Georgia was 22 wraps per inch. This is, yeah, about 22, 21, 20. Yeah, it's about 22 wraps per inch. So again, planning to knit on 3.5 millimeter needles-ish, maybe 3.25s for a slightly more durable fabric. Ribbing would probably be on 2.75 millimeter needles. And then, yeah, I'll have to see if I have any patterns in my queue that would be about right. I have one that I'm thinking of, but I don't know if it would be quite right for this yarn. I'll have to see. Anyhow, that's the big like new work in progress that I'm really excited about. Post-washing, it just ended up being perfect. So now I need to swatch it and go from there. All right, we have some, I think we have some knitting. We have some very interesting knitting. So I will see you guys on the other side. Okay, so knitting. Do you guys want to talk about Trinigan first, or do you want to talk about a new cast on? What do you want to do? I'm going to make the executive decision to do Trinigan first because it's really fast, and then we can talk about the other one and we can go into a rabbit hole with it. So Trinigan. I have actually not been working on this a ton. However, it continues to grow, which is pretty incredible. So I won't change cameras for this one. Oh, good. You guys voted for Trinigan anyways. I've actually been continuing to work on this. I'm still calling this my raspberry vomit. I know it's not very nice, but it's true. I need to, the body of the sweater you knit to 18 inches long, but I know that for my body that's not quite long enough, so I'm going to lengthen it to about 19 inches, maybe 20, just to give it that real jackety kind of feel that it's a little bit longer. I did that with my mandolin cardigan that I finished recently, and I was happy with that just that added couple of inches, because if it's only 18, it kind of hits at an odd place on my hip, but the 20 makes it really a long cardigan and a drapey cardigan, more of like a jacket. Rebecca says it's not vomit, it's beautiful. It's very pink. Rebecca warned me when I bought the yarn. She's like, that's very pink, Rach. Like, are you sure? She asked me a bajillion times if I was sure. But it is really beautiful. I do love the darker yarn, the darker mosaic knit fabric. Like the fact that it just gentrifies it a little bit. It just makes it a little bit more interesting. And so often, I was reflecting on this at work when I was working on it on one of my breaks on Sunday. We so often do dark for the main color and then a lighter yarn for the mosaic, or like the contrast color. Like we so often do like white with a color, or a gray with a color. So we either do like a neutral or we do a lighter color, and then we put and so I was sort of liking that it was the opposite, that it was the darker with the light. And I thought that was really interesting. It is really big. I showed my friend Kathy, Susie, and Greta. We had a quick cup of coffee a couple of weeks ago. It was lovely to see them. We only ever see each other at fiber festivals, and we were like, we have to get together and make a conscious effort to do that. So we did. And I was showing them, and they were like, so are two of you gonna fit in there? Because like it's really big. And I knit the smallest size, and I made the needles smaller. I went down to 4mm needles. It calls for 4.5mm needles, US size 7 versus a US size 6, which is what I'm using. And even then, it's still quite hefty. So yes, it goes all the way around, but it's a lot of fabric. So this is really going to be very jacket-ish, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. It'll use up the yarn, and I'm enjoying it. The back looks like hearts. They look like hearts. Isn't that cool? So Kathy was saying, she's like, I think you should wear it inside out because it has hearts. It's just the way that the mosaic works and how you carry the yarn, but they really do. They look like hearts. Isn't that cool? Anyhow, just in the mindless knitting section right now, I haven't gotten to the interesting part, which is the yoke, and I'll get there. One day I will get there. I don't think I'm going to take this to Ontario. It's bulky, it's big. I have to take a whole bunch of yarn with me if I do take it. So the plan is to leave it at home, and I will work on it when we get back. All right, let's talk about a very, very interesting cast on that I did one evening in a moment of pure insanity. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, I have to go to my other screen, and I'm gonna get rid of this because we don't need this anymore. And okay, this sweater has been in my queue for a really super long time, and I saw a sample in one of my local yarn shops, and I fell in love with it. And she had used commercial sock yarn. This is called the Amalia cardigan. It's by Shiny Superhero. Is that right? Shiny Superhero. Yes, Shiny Superhero. I don't know her name. She doesn't have her name on any of her profiles on Ravelry, Instagram. She just goes by Shiny Superhero. And the idea is that there's 5 colors in this, so there's 5 yarns, and you use the fingering weight sock yarn doubled. So through the whole cardigan, you're carrying 2 yarns double while also knitting intarsia. So it's not for the faint of heart, for sure. But I saw the sample and I just fell in love with it. I don't generally do that, but I just loved it. So this is the pattern. So allow this to kind of ground you when we're talking about this sweater, so that you can kind of follow along mentally with sort of where we're going. So I had raided my stash of sock yarn, and the problem is that there isn't enough cohesion in it to be able to generate a sweater out of it particularly. But I cast it on just to kind of see how it was built. So this is sock yarn from my stash that is, most of it actually is sweet fiber. When she lives locally to me, Melissa, and her mom owned my local yarn shop before it closed last year. So I have a lot of her yarn from like yarn sales that Sue would have and just being around. And I got a couple of her yarns when she had done like an advent along kind of thing. And I kind of ended up just amassing some of her yarn. The construction of this sweater is really interesting. So let me show you. I haven't ripped it out yet. It will be ripped out, and I will tell you why. And it is all about Dion. The reason for this sweater is, and why I'm ripping it out is because of Dion, who couldn't be here today, and she was super bummed to miss. But the reason for this sweater is Dion, why I'm sticking with it. So this is one evening worth of knitting. I felt like I kind of like lost the evening, because as soon as I got down to adding the 3rd color, I was like, yep, no, I'm out. I don't like this at all. But that's just because it's just not the right color for me and for what I wanted to create. But I'll talk about the color stuff in a moment. So basically what you do is you cast on your stitches for your back neck. And this eventually gets picked up, these back neck stitches eventually get picked up for the collar that goes around the whole cardigan. So eventually you have all of those stitches picked up when you finish the sweater and knit out. And so you don't see that you've cast on a different color at the back neck there. So that's this cast on here. And I'm sorry that this is rolling, but it's gonna roll because it's stockinette. And then you start knitting, but immediately, because it's intarsia, you have to add your first bobbin of color. And so that is here, and at the same time you're increasing. And then there's this whole chart pattern for this panel that goes all the way down through the sleeve to the cuff. And then you're increasing here at your back yoke. It's kind of a modified raglan, to be honest. And then you've got the same thing on the other side. So you have to keep track of multiple charts, multiple stitch patterns going on at the same time, and then when and where on those various charts to add your next color, because the colors are kind of like watercolored on. If you look at it, it's like watercolored. One color starting, one color is finishing, the other color is still going. And then those flowers, the orange flowers, they're added afterward. There's a lot going on this. And so as you can see, within about 2 or 3 rows, I had all of these like little bits and pieces of yarn. So you have to break up and cut your skeins because you have all of these different bobbins going on at the same time. So she recommends putting your stuff on like a tabletop. I used the lid of one of my Tupperwares that have my stash in it, and you have multiple sheets of paper that you have to follow at the same time. So you have to have all your sheets of paper out, and then you have to be constantly moving your bobbins around so that stuff doesn't get tangled. So of course what happened was things got super tangled. So this is not for the faint of heart. So there was a few things that I learned. Number one, I need to get proper little bobbins that can hang off the back of the sweater so that I can just move them around as I need to. And if I just, and I'm gonna have to have multiple ends of the yarn constantly being woven in as I'm knitting. Thankfully, it's for the most part, other than the saddle shoulder, for the most part, it's just stockinette stitch, so it's not a big deal to weave in ends as you go. It's very fast. But I need to get little bobbins that can hang over the back. I'm thinking like, you know, those for anybody who does embroidery or cross stitch, the little plastic flat cards that you put your embroidery floss on. That's what I need. And they can just hang at the back, and I can knit on that color as I come to it, as I need to get to it. The other thing that I had come to was the fact, yeah, it's not a relaxing knit, Dagmar. It definitely, yeah, she says it would drive me crazy. The thing is I want to have these longer term, more complicated projects going, because I knit I knit sweaters really quickly, and they are finished like that, and I don't want to add tons and tons and tons of garments to my wardrobe anymore. I want to be more intentional about what I'm adding, so hence doing something like this. So that said, I need the little bobbins to hold the butterflies at the back, and they need to be more organized than just little handheld butterflies. I need them to be on something so that I can keep track of them. The other piece of this is why this works so well is because there's a cohesion to it, and it feels like there's a cohesion. She used speckle dyed yarn. She's got the neon going there. It just has an overall cohesion. It was all from the same dyer. It has the same look to it. And so this got me thinking and channeling my inner Dion, because I was like, this is brilliant. This is exactly what I want to make and what I want to have in my stash. And I want a way to show all of our Year of Color stuff. And I want to show like the culmination of all of the learning that I've done and how far I feel like I've come in my understanding of color and putting together color, and not always just working with one or two colors. So I pulled out all of my Year of Color sample skeins that I've carded up and made to date. And I started going through them and looking at them. So like this was the compliments one that I've made. This one was the triadic one with the CMYK and adding black and making shades. And there's another one. This one has the black and the shades. It's also triadic, but it was with RYB. So I was looking through all of these and I was like, oh, this is what I need to do. I need to take my favorites that look like they have some cohesion and like they fit together. And I was thinking about Dion the whole time, because I was like, yes, Dion would be so proud. And so would Rebecca, and she just put it in the chat. Yes. I took them and I started making color palettes. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna choose my 5 colors based on the skeins that I've already spun. And there's a couple of options here that I've got. So I have this one, and then I did another one as well that was a little bit lighter. It doesn't look super light, but it is lighter. It's using different areas of the skein. And it actually picked up on the carpet as well, but I really liked the blue. Where maybe you just add like a little bit of white, like maybe 2% white, just to lighten it ever so slightly. You see how it's just that little bit lighter, and put it together this way where there would be, again, that cohesion. Because if you see those 7 skeins that are there in that photo, there's a cohesion to all of them. They look like they go together. They look like they have a harmony. And I thought that's what I need to do. And so I'm going to take this back to the beginning, slow it down, work on each color one at a time, and just work through, I think for the beginning of the cardigan, within the first, I think it's like the first 10 or 15 rows, you saw it on my swatch. Within about 10 or 15 rows, I had 3 colors. So I need the first 3 colors. So what are the first 3 colors that are going to what's the one that's going to ground everything, that's going to go through the entire sweater? The collar and the saddle shoulder. I think for me, that's going to be that dark browny red. That's the second one from the end over there. Or this khaki-ish, grayish green. It's going to be one of those two colors. Basically, it'll be the skein that's on the end here that's closest to me. That's going to be the collar and the saddle shoulder. So, okay, I've got that color. And now I just need to decide on the color that's going to come down from the yoke. And then the color that I had done the yellow. So let me just go back so I can show you guys this. This photo here, you can see where the yellow is introduced. And there's the burgundy. So I just need to decide on those two colors to go with that dark brown to get things started. And then I can start spinning and I can start knitting and working on this and see if this is actually what I want to pursue. So I need little butterfly holders to do the intarsia. I've never done intarsia before. That's part of the reason why I chose this pattern. Yeah, not for the faint of heart. So I hope that it goes okay. I think it's gonna be a lot of work, and I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I'm just hoping that it goes smoothly. So I'll have some updates for you guys in the coming months after we get back from Ontario and I can actually start working on it. But those are kind of the two projects. My big projects that I have been working on all spring and all summer had been the combo spin, the Sweet Georgia combo spin, and the Kainnu Harmaas. So like they're done. So, and I finished my 3 sweaters that I was working on. So now it's like clean slate, starting fresh. And so we always have these ebbs and flows in the podcast where I find we have times when I'm starting a lot of stuff and then I'm finishing a lot of stuff and then I'm starting again and then finishing. And then there's all of that time, the majority of the time that's spent in the middle where I'm in progress and I'm sharing with you what I'm learning. So there you go. All right. I unfortunately do not have time to do community participation today. We will do it next show. The reason is because I have to pick my kids up from soccer camp. So I've been kind of watching the time. And as much as I would love to sit here with you guys for another umpteen number of minutes, I can't. So we will save community participation for next time. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. It was a long one today again, but I think that's okay. And next episode, like I said, September 5th at 10 a.m. Pacific will be a premiere. So I hope that you guys enjoy that. I'm hoping I can jump in and join you. I'll be at my in-laws, so there's no reason why I can't sit there on my phone for an hour. I should be able to do that. Fingers crossed that we're not doing anything. And yeah. The Wool Circle, for all of you who are Wool Circlers, will be streaming on Monday at 10 a.m. I couldn't do it on Tuesday. That was the original plan because we'll be on a plane. So unless you want me to stream from a plane, which will not work, it needs to be on Monday at 10 a.m. And then starting in September, the Wool Circle and the live stream will be on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So if you are a patron of the show and you're a Wool Circler, there will be something for you every Tuesday morning. So, or afternoon, wherever you're coming to from in terms of time zones. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Diana, you're absolutely right. I have to encourage everybody to hit the like button. Thank you for taking a moment to do that. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I can't believe it's already Tuesday. And happy making, happy spinning, happy all the things, happy knitting. And I will see you guys same time, same place in a couple of weeks. Bye, everyone. A very special thank you to Elaine, Anne, Tori, Amanda, and Lisa. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you.